Today we are going to start our chapter number 2, which is Methods of Inquiry in Psychology. In this chapter, we are going to learn what are the different methods which psychology employs to study mental processes, behavior, and experiences. Now, we all know that psychology is defined as the study of mental processes, experiences, and behavior in different contexts. So, mental processes, experiences, and behavior constitute the subject matter of psychology. This is what psychology studies. This is what we understood in chapter number 1. Chapter number 1 dealt with the content, the subject matter of psychology, what it studies. In this chapter, chapter number 2, we are going to understand how does psychology study what it aims to study. So, when you study something, there is a method to it. Those methods we are going to take up in this chapter. So, we'll be learning about the different methods or ways through which psychology understands mental processes, experiences, and behavior. So, psychology studies mental processes, experiences, and behavior through the use of scientific methods. Now, let us understand what do we mean by scientific methods? What is so scientific in scientific methods? Science, as we all know, is a method of inquiry. If you look at your textbook, page number 24, under the section Steps in Conducting Scientific Research, the section starts with the sentence that science is not so defined by what it investigates as by how it investigates. Both what and how are italicized. What this sentence means to convey is that science refers to a particular method, a way of knowing. So, how you address a question, on that depends whether your inquiry, whether your study is scientific or not. So, being scientific does not lie in what you want to know, rather, how you want to know it. So, the method of knowing something makes it a science. The hallmark of a scientific method rests on these two very basic criteria. One, objectivity, which is defined as the fact that if two or more persons study a phenomenon independently, both of them, to a great extent, should arrive at the same conclusion. So, scientific method has a quality called objectivity, where if two or more people are studying something using a scientific method, they are bound to get similar results. The second criterion which makes a method of knowing a scientific method is systematic study, or a study which follows a procedure or series of steps. Now, these series of steps are: one, conceptualizing a problem. When you start with a scientific study, what you do is that you conceptualize, or you try to define, you try to describe what you want to study. So, whatever you want to study has to be clearly defined. Once you have defined the topic, what you want to study, the second step is that you collect data, or you gather certain information from people, from other people, using certain tools or using certain methods. Number 3, you draw conclusions. From the information that you have gathered, you draw certain conclusions or interpretations out of that data. Number 4, revise research conclusions. If the conclusions that you arrive at by analyzing the data are not satisfying or not answering the problem that you wanted to study, then you again repeat the process. You then formulate a new hypothesis. You conceptualize the problem in a different way. Start with a new hypothesis, again gather data, draw conclusions, and then see whether this conclusion answers the question or not. This is the systematic procedure which we follow in all scientific studies. All scientific study, or all methods of study which we call as scientific, are scientific because they adhere to objectivity and systematic study. Coming to specific methods in psychology, psychology uses the following methods: observation, field study, case history, experimentation, psychological tests, and survey. We'll be taking up all these methods one by one. Today, we'll take up the method of observation and learn the basic idea or basic ideas related to this method called observation. Observation, as we all know, refers to the act of viewing or examining a person, object, or situation. So, when you observe something, or when you observe people, or when you observe a situation, what you do is that you are viewing it, you are examining it. Observation is something which we engage in our day to day life. In our day to day life, we depend on observation to a great extent. But surely the scientific observation or observation as a method of study in psychology is different from the day to day observation. Why is it so? Why is day to day observation different from scientific observation? Because of three reasons. One, the scientific observation starts off with selection. So you have to first select or choose a behavior which you want to observe. In day to day observation, we do not observe intentionally. Whatever we come across, we observe it unintentionally. When it comes to scientific observation, we define or we choose which aspect of our surroundings, which aspect of behavior, which aspect of mental process or experience we want to understand or study through observation. So, first step is selection, selecting or choosing a behavior for observation. The second step is recording. So, in your day to day observation, what you observe is never recorded. You just make mental notes of your observation and just that. Whereas in scientific observation, what we do is that we record our observations. We record our observations in the form of notes or images, photographs, or video or audio recordings, or through tallies, or maybe shorthand symbols, or maybe shorthand notes, very short and personalized kind of notes we can make. This entails recording of observation. And the third step is analysis of data or observations. Whatever data or whatever observation we get, we have recorded, we derive meaning out of it, we analyze it. What is analysis? That we break down into parts. We try to gather meaning out of it by breaking it into parts. Whatever observations we have recorded, what we do is finally we analyze it, or we try to cull out meaning out of those observations. This is called the analysis part of observation method. This is very briefly what we understand by observation method. We'll be going into the details of observation method in our next lecture. The observation method can be divided into two broad categories. One is the naturalistic observation, the other one is controlled observation. Naturalistic observation, as the name implies, is done in natural settings. Controlled observation refers to the observation that we do in a laboratory setup. So, in a laboratory, there are certain conditions which are controlled. So, the observation that we do in a laboratory under controlled conditions is called a controlled observation. The observation that we do in a natural setting where many things cannot be controlled is called a naturalistic observation. Naturalistic observation again is divided into two kinds. One is participant observation, the other one is non-participant observation. Both these participant and non-participant observations are done in naturalistic settings or in natural settings where there is no control over any factor or condition. Participant observation refers to a kind of observation where the observer becomes the part of the setting which is being observed. For example, if I want to observe the behavior, the study behavior of children of class 11 of a certain school, what I do is that I go to the school and become a part, I take admission in the school, I become a part of the student fraternity, class 11, and being a student, I can observe the behavior of other students. Or maybe if I want to study the teaching method in a school, I may take up the role of a teacher, and by being a part of the setting, I can observe, I can make observations in the natural setting. This is an example of a participant observation. Non participant observation is an observation which we do in naturalistic settings where things cannot be controlled, but the observer, the person who is observing, does not become a part of the setting. For example, in case I want to study the work culture in doctors in a hospital which has a COVID center, so, if I want to study the lifestyle of these doctors, the kind of stress they are working in, if I want to understand them by observing them in their work setting. So, I do not need to be either a patient or a worker or a doctor in the hospital. I can just go there, spend time in the hospital, observe the doctors working, maybe ask them certain questions, have an interview with them, take pictures. This is how I can observe their work culture, the kind of stress they are in. I can study many things about them by just observing them as an outsider. I do not need to be a part of the setting which I am observing. This is the non participant observation. In participant observation, the observer, the person who is observing, becomes a part of the setting which he or she wants to observe. In non participant observation, the person who is observing or the observer does not have to be a part of the setting which he or she sets out to observe. Rather, he can just be an observer, a person who spends time in that setting, records certain observations, and that is how he or she can understand the setting that he plans to understand. So, this is about the method of observation which is used in psychology to study certain behaviors or mental processes. Let us now examine the advantage and disadvantage of the observation method. One obvious advantage of this method is that it enables the study of people, their behavior, mental processes, or experiences, whatever we set out to study, in a naturalistic setting, where they occur in a natural way. One disadvantage of this method is that it is labor intensive and time consuming. It takes a lot of time and effort for the researcher to go to the setting and study the setting. The researcher is not able to study what he or she sets out to study at her own convenience. The researcher has to make efforts and plan the study according to the schedule of the setting. It is time consuming because the researcher often has to schedule the research according to the schedule of the people involved in the setting which he wants to study. For instance, if I want to study the study behavior of students of class 11, then I have to schedule my study according to the timings of the school, which obviously requires a little bit of more effort and labor to do. The second disadvantage of this method is that it suffers from a bias called observer bias. Observer bias refers to a fact that the person who goes to observe has certain values, has certain expectations, has certain ideas about the process, the behavior, or the experiences which the person sets out to study in a natural setting. These values, expectations, or ideas tend to influence the researcher's observation. So, what we observe is often influenced by what we think about what we are observing, or what we feel about what we are observing, or what our expectations are from what we are observing. And these often influence what is being observed. This is referred to as observer bias. Observation method suffer from what is called an observer bias. This is about the advantage and disadvantages of observation method. In the next lecture, we'll be taking up another method of study which we use in psychology.